Okay, we'll call to order the electronic study session meeting for the West Valley City Council. It is Tuesday, January 18th at 4:30 p.m. We will note that Council Member Fitzsimonu is on the electronic with us, and Councilman Hoon will be here soon, and everyone else is present. We have our minutes for January 11th, 22. Does anyone have a comment, any comments or a motion?
I move to approve those minutes.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. That passes. We have our review of tonight's regular meeting. Are there any changes?
No, ma'am. Thanks.
Okay.
No changes. We're good.
Does anybody have any questions about tonight? No?
How will we, who's going to be asking the questions?
Nicole.
Okay, great. Yeah, so Nicole asked the question.
And keep everybody to their 2 minutes. And then Mr. Flores is going to bring the people in and out, the applicants in and out, and we'll just go from there.
Would it be
Any
helpful for me to go over the
That would
voting
probably be,
process again, just
Sure.
because we only heard it the one time?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So we'll have the
Okay.
presentations and then,
So they get 6 minutes to freeze those and then 2 minutes for questions.
Each, 2 minutes.
so
each.
2 minutes for each. Yeah, 2 minutes for their introduction, 2 minutes each question.
Right.
6 minutes
total.
6 minutes.
altogether.
Yeah, but with the in and out, it's probably going to be about 10 minutes each candidate.
Right.
Yeah, I would guess that's probably about right.
And then when Nicole's done, I'll ask for discussion or motion, and then Mr. Pyle.
So hopefully at that point, we'll have a motion that's acceptable to at least a majority of the council, and we'll have a candidate. And at that point, the candidate will be sworn in. And we've even talked about, okay, Nicole's going to stand up, have the newly appointed council member face in the audience. So we've given this a little bit of thought about how that would all present. Now, assuming that doesn't happen,
So ultimately, we have to have a majority.
yes,
4
Otherwise,
members.
4 members. 4? Yeah, 4.
yeah.
Mhm.
Or they have to do fire, right? They have to build fire, like
Or they
Survivor.
have to do what?
They have
Build
to-
a
they have to
fire.
build fire.
Like in Survivor.
Don't get me started, 'cause I have this whole list of what I think every presidential candidate should have to go through first. But yeah, that's neither here nor there. So yes, that's right. So if you can't get a candidate through that immediate process, then, and I'm just gonna read it so we are all completely clear again. If a majority cannot be reached on one individual within the 30-day time limit, which we'll talk about that again here in a moment too. State law requires the 2 candidates with the highest number of votes from the initial vote to go through another round of voting. So let's say you had 3 for one, but not a majority, and 2 for another. You take those 2, and then you would have a motion to vote on one of the 2. Make the motion to move forward to a second round. Oh, sorry. Let me clarify that. You'd make a motion to move those 2 candidates to a second round.
And then that has to pass by majority.
Then you have to have another vote to pass by majority on one of those 2 individuals. If you cannot do that, then we do the lot, draw by lot, for which we have a sealed pack of cards here, brand new
Never
for the
been-
evening, never been opened. High card, the individuals themselves will draw from the deck. The high card would win. Aces are high. Okay. Now, you could still, let's say you don't get to 2 candidates, can't get a vote for the 2 candidates. You could continue this meeting to either of the next 2 council meetings. One's on the 25th
Mhm.
and the next one's on the 1st.
Very first. Mhm.
You could even, because it would still fall within the 30 days, call a special meeting as late as February the 2nd. So there's a couple of ways to address that as well. But hopefully we won't get to that situation. So any questions on that?
Yeah, in the event that
There need to be 2 moves to a second round. Is there a possibility of asking any additional questions between those, or is the initial introduction and question period pretty much it?
So yes, you could do that. Now, some other questions came up that we discussed earlier today. And really the 2 requirements you have are you have to vote on this candidate in the manner prescribed, and you have to have a candidate within 30 days, right? And then there are other things that you could do along that line. We don't really recommend you change the process in the middle of it because that would lead to potentially confusion, possible challenge, lack of clarity, that sort of thing. But to your point, Jake, yes, if you as a council decided you wanted to do that, you could do that.
And we can't go out and have any closed door meetings,
No.
discussions,
Right.
none of that stuff.
Right.
It's
And-
just everything's in there
Yeah.
up front.
In fact, that's a great question. We'll point out that some of us here might be old enough to know that we actually have had closed session discussions about these vacancies in past meetings here at the city. The law was changed in 2012, a long time after the last time we've had that situation arise. And the law change was to specifically prohibit closed meeting discussions about the candidates. So no.
Which would be a
Correct.
personnel thing, but it's not one that
Right.
will work in this situation.
Right, right, specifically prohibited.
So to Jake's question, if between the 2, they can't come to a decision, could we go to the 3rd question on our list, or should we just call for a continuance and maybe come up with the questions for another time?
I would say, since that is a question, yeah, I probably ought to just settle it right now. Do you want to ask an extra question or do you want to continue it?
I think it depends.
Okay.
It's going to get right to there and then you'll
Right,
decide.
right, and that's fine.
Because, I mean, I don't know how they're gonna interview, but looking at these, I've got 2 or 3 that I think I'd be okay with.
Okay.
So if it's not one of those, then I think I want more questions.
Okay.
That makes sense.
So do we need a decision on that now, or can we do it?
No, my
Make it on
saying
the go.
that's just a preference.
Okay.
I mean, I think it would be clear. I think it would be better for the process, but it's a valid point. So who knows what comes up in the process itself. And so I'm certain we'll do the best we can to deal with it then
Okay,
at that time, if it happens.
so legal should be ready just in case.
Yeah,
Okay.
legal, yeah, again, legal's
He's got it all?
legal's basically going to tell you 3 things here, not to speak for the lawyers, but since I've already had about 3 weeks of discussion here with them, they're going to tell you got to comply with those 2 things that the state
Okay.
statute says you have to do. And then after that, to put it in layman's terms, it's just kind of more be clear and don't be dumb, right?
Don't do something stupid,
Don't do something that would,
jeopardize.
yeah, jeopardize your positions or make it unclear or bring the process itself into dispute.
Yeah, cloud the
Okay.
process.
Yeah. Okay, so if it gets to that point, we can just stop
Yeah.
and ask, and then
Yeah,
I don't know how we'll come up with another question unless you just have number 3.
we do
Queued
have
up.
that list, so we could,
I mean, or do you
Either-
thinking you might need a specific question?
No,
you could even ask a different question if you want. I would say for sure at that point, obviously, you're going to want to have the rest of the councils buy into that
Yeah.
particular question,
Yeah.
but it doesn't have to be the ones on the list.
I think we're gonna be okay. I
Okay,
think, but I just, worst case scenario, I think
Right.
we want more information than
Right.
less.
And you
Okay.
do have continuance as an option. And if things get really crazy, you can always step back and say, you know what? We've had enough of that for the evening. There is one rule to that. You do have to continue it to a date certain. You can't not pick a date. You do have to pick the date.
Yeah, I
If we
think
got down to 3 people want this person and 3 people want that person, we can decide with the cards.
Right.
yeah,
if you get it down to 3 or only 2? It
Sorry,
says
you got to
2.
get to 2.
You have to get to
Yes.
2.
What
That's
I
what the
mean
law
is
says.
3
There's
votes
3
for
Three
one
Oh.
votes
person.
for
Or-
2,
3
one
votes
candidate,
for
and 3
another
votes for
person.
another
Okay.
candidate, right?
Split.
Then you'd beat it. So that would be fine.
Yeah. Okay,
And again, that has happened here at the city. It worked out just fine.
did they flip a coin or something?
Actually drew pieces of paper out of
Oh,
a fishbowl.
Wes
Okay.
Jordan flipped the coin.
That's who it was, okay.
I like the card deck idea. It seems maybe a little, I don't know, flashy, dramatic, but you know, it's a sealed deck, you know how many pieces of paper are in the deck, and you know what's on each one of those pieces of paper, right? So there's no controversy about what's there.
And there's not one a little ruffled and not ruffled if you
Right.
draw it out of a fishbowl.
Right, right. Not unless
So-
Bicycle did it back at the factory.
Okay,
Did it come shuffled or?
nope.
No, so-
Hey, come in, suits. Yeah, are you
So
gonna
just
shuffle
pick-
it?
You just picked the top one.
That is another question, just as a
You want me to
technicality.
shuffle? I can shuffle.
I'm just-
I can actually perform that mechanical.
That's what, I mean, because otherwise you do know kind of
Right.
the order of the cards.
So it's great. That's
Okay.
a great question.
Good
Yeah.
job.
What do you think?
I
I
was-
didn't even think about it. I'm,
I would just shuffle it once.
yeah, I think we
All
need
right.
to shuffle.
I'll
Yep.
do that then. Yes.
Yep,
And
if it
cut
gets there.
Shuffle and cut.
okay,
Shuffle and cut.
Yeah.
there we go. I just want to answer as many questions right now as we
Yeah,
can, so
that's
there's
good.
no confusion in there. So if you have more, I would appreciate it.
My question is for the poker game after. the
Yeah.
meeting. What's the minimum bet?
No, we'll do it with M&Ms, and 2 M&Ms will be your minimum bet. Okay, so no more questions?
I think we're good.
Do you feel confident we have it?
Yep.
Nothing from, okay. I do have to say, staff has researched and done their due diligence that I think this will run pretty smooth.
I
So,
think we're just,
I'm not,
I think we're just as worried about forgetting something as you guys are here. So this has been a topic of a lot of consideration.
yeah. Well, we appreciate all the effort you put in, so thank you. Okay, let's start with our public hearing. We have it's just an application. Okay, so SA 7-2021. Mr. Lehman electronically will join us and present that. Mr. Pyle, did you have anything in
No, ma'am.
advance? Okay,
Thanks. That'll be fine.
turn it over to Mr. Lehman.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. So the application that we have on the agenda this evening is a request from Dominion Energy, represented by Rick Dunham. They're requesting an approval to amend Lot 4 of the CR England subdivision to create an additional lot. So the piece of property in red is Lot 4. The other 3 lots are to the west or to the left of your screen. We did this subdivision a number of years ago to create lots for the businesses that were located there. The next slide is a zoomed in version. So if you look at the very top upper right of that red square box, you'll see a little box. That is a Dominion Energy Regulator Station. And over the last year, Dominion Energy has been upgrading their facilities. And in so doing, they're expanding their site to accommodate their modifications and upgrades. The site that they have here is relatively small, so they're proposing to increase the size. We used to be able to do these by what we call lot line adjustments, but the state law changed last year to require a plat amendment if you're actually impacting a recorded lot. So we did take a couple of photos for you to show you what the site looks like. Appreciate Eric going through these slides. So this is looking from the 201 South Frontage Road, looking to the south. So that's the regulator station itself. The next slide is looking back across the property to the east. And then one last slide looking back to the north. So the area here that's sort of the darker gravel will become part of the lot for the regulator station. And the last slide is subdivision plat itself. So if you look into the upper left corner, you'll see the subdivision plat. So lot 4A and 4B. The little tiny piece up in the upper right corner is the new lot. It'll be about 9,800 square feet. And that will accommodate the expansion and upgrades to the Dominion Regulator Station. And that is our report.
Okay, any comments or questions for Mr. Lehman? Good job. No questions. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So we'll now turn to ordinance 22-02, and Jamie Young will present this.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm Jamie Young, Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation and the Fitness Center Director. As many of you may know, it's been more than 10 years since we have increased our membership fees at the Fitness Center. And in those 10 years, we certainly have had our expenses increase at a much faster rate than our revenue has. So our request and our recommendation is to make some changes to the consolidated fee schedule with about a 15% increase for memberships, and for seniors only about a 5% increase. That is due to the fact that to remain competitive with other facilities in the area that have similar amenities, we didn't want to go too high and have the senior rate be significantly more than those other facilities. So it's about 15% on the annual membership rate, which is listed here in your issue paper. The ACH rate, if they choose to have a monthly deduction, is a little bit more because of the fees associated with doing that, the personnel cost and the bank fees associated with doing ACH processing. As part of this, the drop-in fees would be increased a little bit as well at a pretty small cost. And we generally try to have those be increased about the same time because the cost of the service that we provide is the same, whether they're members or admission payers, daily users. So this is something that in doing this, we want to also include the Centennial Outdoor Pool as part of the membership fee. We think that that has been something that's been requested over the years and something that people really were a little miffed last year that we had an additional cost. And so we think this will kind of help smooth over that the membership fee increase is going up, or the membership fee is going up, that they'll now have no additional fee to use the Centennial Outdoor Pool. Because it includes the outdoor pool, we would like it to be effective May 1st because the pool would open later that month. So it makes sense to have the benefit come at the same time as the increase. Do you have any specific questions?
No questions from the council? Awesome, you did well as
All
well.
right.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now take resolution 22-12, and we have Jason Erickson in person. Sorry, Jason.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. Good evening. So what we're looking at tonight, Jason Erickson, Assistant Director of Parks and Recreation. So what we're looking at tonight is a interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County. We've done this before with them when we kind of shared property up like at Lodestone Park, where we kind of went in agreement with them because we're in a partnership with them and bringing parks and in the city as much as we can. But anyway, so this one comes in like three parts. So the water meter, Rocky Mountain Power easement, and a property easement. So the water meter that's there. So we have a water meter that's there that we utilize for the outdoor stage for the Utah Cultural Celebration Center. And that's the only thing it's used for is the outdoor, is that just the back room there. So there's like a restroom and stuff. So water usage is extremely low on that. So in order to save the impact fees and the installation costs, Salt Lake County asked if we'd be willing to give them that meter and allow them to use that for Pioneer Crossing Park. Excuse me. And which they're still allowing us to use the water for our restroom and our back room up on the stage. So, but they'll be transferring the meter over to their name. Then the next part of it is for the Rocky Mountain Power easement. So currently we have a recreation easement through the Rocky Mountain Power corridor that actually also goes through where Pioneer Crossing Park is going to go. But they're just asking to be added to that easement. And then the last portion is a property easement because we own a piece of property, well, a number of little kind of pieces of property in that area. So the area is on, I don't know if you saw it on the maps, it's on the east side of the big sidewalk down the Cultural Celebration Center. So east of that great big kind of walkway driveway to the river. And so our property basically is from that asphalt pathway to the north. And so when they build, we're just giving them an easement to allow them to build on that. And then they will also be maintaining anything that they build. And we'll still maintain with the stuff that we've already built. So they are, Salt Lake County is looking to begin construction the middle of February to the first part of March, and hoping to finish it before November. So they're wanting to move forward as quickly as they can on it, and they have a contractor that they've already got online and ready and are ready to go. So anyway, so that's where we are with that. Any questions?
Any questions from the council? Sweet, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have resolution 22-13, and we have Nancy Day that's going to present that. Anything from you, Mr. Pyle, before?
No, ma'am. Thank
Okay.
you.
Good evening, Councilman and Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is a very simple resolution. As you are aware, we have an interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County Aging Services in regards to the Harmon Senior Recreation Center for reimbursement from them for the meal program and also transportation that they help provide to some of the seniors to get to the facility. This is an extension to extend without any changes this exact same agreement through December of 2023. So we would like to move forward with that. It's been a good agreement for us. It's worked out really well for our seniors.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have one
Okay.
there. It's kind of a curveball to you, Nancy, but I know we've already had this discussion before. So the 18,786 is the exact same number that they have given us for how many years now?
Quite a few years now. I want to say at least 7 or 8, maybe even closer to 10.
Yeah. And
So
we've had discussions with them about increasing that support. They just have not been amenable to that. Is that my
that is
correct
correct.
memory?
That is correct. And we've talked with them about changing it, especially when it comes to some of the personnel costs. But they kind of have different systems with other agencies. I believe there's only one other agency like ours where they work with that municipality. The others are Salt Lake County facilities. So we're a little bit apples to oranges, but this has worked out for us. So.
Okay, so the only reason I point that out is we, as a operational decision, are kind of faced with a choice of we can either take the help that they will give us, knowing they're really not going to give us any more, maybe forever, however long that might be, or we could just not do the service. And we want to do the service, so we have just elected to continue to absorb the increasing cost on that side.
Yes. And it really is helpful. I know another municipality in the valley does their own, but they have to charge their seniors quite a bit of money to recoup the cost of the meals. And so, we've been lucky in this endeavor that we don't have to do that. And it's helpful, to our seniors.
So how close does this get to our cost?
Well,
Are they splitting it with a 50-50 or are we just taking?
they provide all of the meals.
Okay,
And then a couple of the part-time staff that help prep and set up and serve the meals, they pay for probably 75% of what their hourly wage is.
okay.
And we're covering the difference there. And then for transportation, it is their vehicle, it is their driver, they pay 100% for that. But that's part of the agreement, is they will do that for us. We only have one. Quite honestly, we could probably utilize, more than that, because there are more seniors that would want to be picked up and brought to
Okay.
the facility. But it is working well for us.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have questions?
So just to clarify, so this pays for 70% of the cost for this program?
Of
We cover
the
30%?
part-time, of the 2 part-time staff that serve. But this Salt Lake County
100% of the food.
pays for 100% of that. And they actually, part of this, give us about $700 a year to get paper products and dishwasher detergent and some of those things associated with it as well. That's a part of the total that they reimburse us for.
Thanks.
So you bet.
Okay, seeing no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we have resolution 22-14, and we have Nicole Cottle. It's our legislative update or agenda. Legislative agenda for now. Then it turns into updates, right, Nicole?
Yes, thank you. Mayor Nicole Cottle with West Valley City. Sorry, I'm not sure who I'm saying that to all the time, why I would say West Valley. Okay, so many of you have been through a legislative session before. Some of you haven't with us. And so what we do is we have a lot of help at the Capitol, of course, and you'll see on your next agenda next week that we have the legislative agendas for the state and federal sessions, for lack of a better way to put it. And we'll present those to you next week. Those give the general overview of kind of where our push is, and then specifically we'll talk through each of our agenda items as we get through the weeks. Then bring you a bill list, which is being produced right now. I've seen a first draft of it today that we track. We track the bills that pertain to the city or have an impact on the city or that we're proactively reviewing. That list is growing day by day. We're up to about 100 that are our bills or bills that affect us. But we'll do that in the way where you can see the quick rundown of what those are and the current status, and then click through to the bill if you want. And then of course, always talk to Lincoln or I if you have questions. One thing, so today was the first day of the session. One thing I wanted to make you aware of, if you weren't already, it was just made public today, is that our Senator Karen Main had an accident on Thursday night, and she slipped and fell, broke some stuff in her shoulder, and also had a hit her head on something. And so she's in the hospital still until looks like Friday. She'll be home in the rehab section of the hospital. I was releasing this information publicly today, so that's why I felt like I could share it with you, but shared it with her legislative colleagues this afternoon, early this afternoon. So she's not accepting any. I don't think the hospital will let visitors of the general sort in. And then I think they're trying to keep that to a minimum when she comes home. We've expressed, of course, through the proper channels, our concern and desire for her to get better. And I'll keep you informed on that, but wanted to make sure you were aware once she publicly disclosed what had gone on. So she's still, I listened to 2 of her bills today. Senator Escamilla is helping her with those. So she's still as active as ever in those conversations. And while I didn't see her vote today, I'm sure that she will as the time starts to go. She's also a legislator who does her bills typically over the interim in committee. And so had several already prepared and passed several today under her name. So I think she's still well in the game, but I think just has a lot of long recuperation to go. So any questions? Okay, great. Thank you.
So you covered both the state and the federal, correct?
Yes, sorry.
So resolution 14 and 15?
Yes.
Okay.
Are those actually listed on the agenda? I missed
Yes.
that. Oh, up for next week. That's right. We're
Yes,
in
for
study
next week.
session.
And they're
It's all
just the
coming to me.
general, what our goals are, non-specific.
They
line
are, yeah.
items.
And then and as you'll recall, we do that on purpose. We want to
Right.
make sure we have a general thrust of the policy decisions from you. But then, as you know, it comes up fast and furious, and lots of decisions have to be made within those boundaries. So these resolutions set the goalposts for staff. And then as we go through the weeks, we bring the things that are of interest, or we make decisions on those bills within the boundaries that you set. So that's how we'll proceed.
Okay, any questions about that?
Sorry.
No, it's okay. I probably didn't explain it well enough. So we're good. Okay,
Great, thank you.
thank you. Now we'll go to resolution 22-16 to authorize self-contained breathing apparatus. And Chief Evans will present that for us.
Yeah, this is an air compressor that fills our air bottles that we use on fires. Currently, this is going to replace a unit that is 22 years old that we can no longer get parts or repair for. So this is a vital piece of equipment. We're moving this. We will have one compressor on the west side and one on the east side to fill our bottles. And so we were able to obtain this compressor at a really good price from what we were anticipating. So here again, this is just to replace a unit that we can no longer use. The manufacturer is no longer there and it's 22 years old.
So we're adding another one?
No,
Or
just
we're replacing
replacing
one?
it. Yeah, we're just moving it from one station to be more central at
Okay.
another station.
And then we already have one on the other side of that town.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions on this item?
Do we know what the life of those compressors are? It says
They're usually about 15 to 20 years is the lifespan. So we've exceeded the one that we're replacing by a couple of years.
The one we're buying has 46 hours on it, so I just don't. I
The
can't- I
hours
can't
that-
equate that to years.
The hours, that would be less than 6 months of work.
Okay.
So they go by hours on the compressor,
Yeah.
not so much the age.
Great.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, seeing none. Thank you, Chief.
Mhm.
Next, we'll have 22-17, purchase of an aerial lift and service body bed from Semi Service Company. And we have Eric Madsen that's going to present this.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is gonna kind of be weird. I don't usually do it in this order. I usually try to buy the truck first. But right now, we're gonna buy the bed and the aerial bucket. We're having a heck of a time getting any kind of vehicles out of Ford right now. We just received an email today that we're looking probably 9 months. So what we're gonna do is we would like to get this order placed to kind of secure our pricing and then get us in line when we do get a truck to be on their list. We got 2 bucket trucks now. One's a 2006 and then one's a 2008 and one's a 2016. It's worn out. We had it over for an inspection last week and there's a lot of problems with the 2008. So just what we need to do.
Okay, any questions?
And was Ford the only viable vendor for this particular product?
They're all in the exact same boat. Our fleet is kind of uniformed to stay with either Ford or Toyota. Makes it easier on the mechanics and the maintenance and the service parts. But we have checked with Chevy and Dodge and they're all in the same boat. They're waiting for the same parts and same microchips.
Good to know. Thank you.
Well, now that we have a certified Ford repair person over there, it makes sense to stay with one since they can do all of our warranty work and everything else.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
been, I don't even know how we would really measure it, but we would take a car to Ford and say it was today and they'd say, well, we can look at it next Monday. Where now we're able to do it today in-house and give it back to the officer by the end of the day.
Okay,
So it saved us a ton of downtime.
and so for this piece of equipment, the same thing, it could be in-house repaired,
Oh, yeah.
save us a lot
yeah.
of time.
Yep.
Okay,
And like I said, if we switch, different manufacturers, they suggest different oils, different velocities. I mean, antifreezers are different. It would be a major changeover to switch.
okay. Thank you.
Are we able to get by with the 2 that we have now until we get this new body in?
We have a meeting about that tomorrow, Don. We're waiting to see what the estimate, we're guessing anywhere between $25,000 and $30,000 in repairs. I mean, it's even got some cracks in the boom,
Hmm,
so.
Is it? I'm sure you've looked at it, but is it
I was
possible?
hoping to get that out of it when we sold it.
Is
So
it possible to switch out the boom and put the new boom on the old one?
that truck's had it. It's at 168,000 miles and that's hard
It's just in its
city,
prime.
hard city driving. If it was on the highway, I could consider it, but the city driving is rough on them.
Okay, understood.
Is the truck you're looking at diesel?
No, it's,
No?
we're gonna
Okay.
go with the new 7.3 gas.
Okay. I just know
Diesels
diesels
have
go
jumped-
like 150,000.
Yeah, the diesels have jumped up there another $12,000
price-wise.
above the gas, and where we're not really using them for pulling or towing really heavy, this
Okay.
doesn't seem like it's necessary.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Mr. Pyle, are there any that look like they need explanation?
Not necessarily explanation, ma'am, but we do have one that's a little bit more money than usual, so I thought it'd be at least worthwhile to look at it. That's
Okay.
the second one, B, Resolution 2219. So right of entry and occupancy agreement with and from, I've just clicked this thing. Valley Crossroads. And so this is a piece that's affected with the 4700 South reconstruction projects. We're actually having to reimburse $150,000 total of value, but our portion of that is only $10,000. But again, it's a sizable piece of property and a sizable piece that's involved in the construction project. And our share is 6.77% of that out of STP funds. So in addition to STP funds, I mean, so that's the $10,000 figure.
Okay. Any questions on this one?
This property right next to Maverick,
It is very close to Maverick,
just
yes.
to the west of Maverick.
Yeah, it's 4860, so it might even be immediately adjacent. There is a drawing. I didn't look at it
It's
earlier.
probably-
Yeah, it's got a lot of architectural stuff on there.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, the last item.
Some of us can't read.
yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, Dan, do you have any additional commentary or clarification on exactly where it is there?
It's immediately next, west of Maverick.
So it is just west of it, okay.
Okay, nothing else? Okay. Thank you. And then next week, we'll have a vote to elect a mayor pro tem. And we will now move on to our communication items.
Okay.
Mr. Pyle, would you like to?
Yes, thanks, ma'am. So we have one presentation only tonight from our police department. So Chief Jacobs is ready to go with that.
Good evening, Colleen Jacobs, Chief of Police. So I have for you. There we go. We'll just get right into it with, this is our 3-year comparison of calls for service. I've prepared this through December, so we're missing like 2 weeks out of the year, but we're busy during those 2 weeks, but it gives you a general idea of how the entire year went. So we usually maintain right about 100,000 calls for service every year. And we're in line with that here. This is our response times, broken down into priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3. To simplify response time, it's from the perception of the citizen. So it's from the time they call 911 to the time that we are there. And this just gives a better explanation as far as what priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3 calls are. Eric, can you squish me down to the bottom? Priority 1 is basically in progress calls. If something is occurring that needs our immediate response, that's a priority 1 call. And from the time that they call in until we're there, it's about 9 minutes and 42 seconds, which has stayed pretty consistent for the last 3 years. Priority 2s are usually just occurred, or they're in progress in the fact that they're like a suspicious person that's in the area, but not someone being immediately hurt. So, and then the priority 3s are they're basically late reports, thefts, burglaries, non-injury accidents. So that's the difference in how the response times are figured. These are 3-year comparison of our persons crimes.
Can I ask one thing?
Yes,
Chief?
ma'am.
So on priority 3, if there's a non-injury accident, does it just stay in the road for 23 minutes until we get there?
Typically, a non-injury accident is less damage, so dispatch will have them move into a parking lot or off of the road if they're able to be.
911 will tell them to do that?
Yes.
Okay. I've just witnessed people sit out there and not move off.
Yes,
Okay.
that is unfortunately a mistaken perception that some citizens have, and that they need to stay there so we can figure out what happened. We can usually figure out what happened by looking at the damage. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yes, our persons crimes, as you can see, 3-year tendency is going down. Property crimes also in the downward for the most part. Crime trend. This is a crime threshold report. The orange is for 2021. The blue is a weighted 5-year average. So last year is weighted more than 5 years ago, but it does take into account all 5 years to kind of figure out a 5-year average. So there's a comparison there. And as you can see, they're all pretty even or down. Parking has been a hot topic. So this is where we're at as far as comparing 2020 and 2021. We have increased to 4 parking compliance specialists. So as a direct result, our numbers have gone up as far as citations issued. And then fees collected, and there's a degree of outstanding fees that people have not paid. This is just gee whiz kind of, these are the top 5 violations. When we implemented this program, it was for a quality of life standard and issues within our community. And as you can see from the top 5 violations, they are focusing on what is affecting our residents and our communities. We have recently had a pretty significant snowstorm. And with that, our parking compliance folks are out issuing citations for those who are interfering with our snow plows. And this is just a quick glance at where those citations were issued and how many there were. We haven't had nearly as much snow this year as we did last year, so the numbers are down for this particular violation. Our staffing, we are authorized at 218 sworn officers. Today, we're actually down 6 vacancies, and we've hired a forensic tech, so we're in the process of hiring 1 parking compliance specialist. And so our numbers are actually really good right now. We're down 6, but we've got, I want to say about 14 in training. So we're operationally down about 20, but we've hired several lateral officers, so they get through training much faster and are on the road faster. So that's it. Any questions?
There was a noted decrease in the response time in all 3 of those categories that you show, or priorities that you showed. In terms of it being hopefully a trend, is there anything that you can think of that has contributed to that?
As you can see, there is a trending down, but they're all pretty stagnant. It's just within seconds. A lot of it is, I believe we restructured our patrol division to where we're on 12-hour shifts and the shifts are overlapping. So there's more coverage for our busy times. And I think that's really helped as far as both the officers' feeling of being overwhelmed and call to call, and also our ability to respond faster.
Jake, it might also be worth noting that there are environmental issues out there from year to year that sometimes we're not looking at when we see the bar that affect like if you got a major road construction project or one of the Bangor intersections is getting rebuilt or stuff like that, that really actually.
41's been awful for response
Right,
time.
right. So we really get affected by that kind of thing too.
Good point. Yeah.
If not for 41, you could have had better times possibly.
Let's go with yes.
You still use the Dragon program here?
We do not use the Dragon program for transcribing. Quite frankly, our newer generation, they're just so computer savvy that they can type it as fast as they can transcribe it and then have our records personnel type it. And so they do most of their own data entry. We recently went to a new dispatching system and a new records management system. So it'll be interesting to see what our numbers are next year.
Because, you know, every time when you dictate and, I mean, I'm sorry, when you sit down, you try to report, take about 25 minutes. Very much, you know, that's the minimum. Thinking about it, dictate and send it to the FISPON or go over to the office, and then maybe we can hire the high school cadet. And then they can do that. And we can promote or demote if they make the language clear, and we can promote them. If they don't make the language clear, and we can demote them. You know what I'm saying? It's just saves so much time for the police officer on the road.
Yeah, and there are some instances where it is faster for them to dictate and send it to records, but then we have an increase in our record staff and their lag time as well. So we're trying to find the good balance between officer downtime and our records turnaround time.
You planning to have to like retirement police officer come back and work for our police department?
I would love to have some of my retired officers back.
Yeah. There's a lot of people out there that want to do something like that. And are you thinking about cadets from high school?
No. We had an Explorer program back in the 80s, and there were some challenges with that, which I'm not sure that we're willing to take on the complications that can come with that sort of a program.
What is that complication?
Some of the interactions between the officers and the juveniles were inappropriate.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yes. Any other questions?
I just have, I only bring it up because it happened in my neighborhood. After the election and before I was sworn in, but they all came to me and said, what's going on? But we had a Razor that was stolen and then crashed into a couple of cars on Falcon. And it took about 2.5 hours for a response. And I'm sure that works into the average. When you're overwhelmed, things happen, and that goes to the bottom of the list when there's not a major incident. But if you can just confirm that that's the case, that it's just, and then also same neighborhood. My wife and I go for a walk almost every day, and there's a car that's been sitting there for 2 years, and it's got the yellow mark around it where it looks like parking is marked it. It's been there and it hasn't moved in 2 years. Just wondered if is that a violation? Is that something that, you know, they should be catching? And
Yeah, they have 72 hours where the vehicles need to be moved if they're parked on the street. So you can go online or just give us the address that you're looking at, or we also have just the email address. Just send in the information as far as the address and the vehicle description, and we'll get out there.
okay, thanks.
That's probably under those fees outstanding on the.
It could be,
enforcement
yeah.
report.
Okay, they haven't paid the fee or moved the car.
Yeah.
Okay, nothing else? Thank you, chief.
Hey, Chief.
All right, our council calendar. Are there any questions on that?
Did we confirm a venue for a strategic plan session?
Yes, we did. So great question. And I'm trying to remember where we went from, if we changed or if we went back. I think we're still at the police community room, and we have confirmed that.
Okay.
Anything else? Seeing none, any potential future agenda items? None of those? Council reports. Any council reports? No. Okay, sweet. Do we have a need for a closed session today?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, our last motion would be to adjourn.
Which motion to adjourn?
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and we are adjourned.